Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins in a world that has magic. Everyone can use magic at their will, and in this world, magic is a natural part of everyday life. Magic is believed to be a gift bestowed by God, and mastery of magic determines one's social status. However, deep in the forest, there is one whose existence defies the natural order. This man's name is Mash, and he enjoys a cream puff after a vigorous workout. Elsewhere, a man named Mash Burnedead explains that he lives with his son in the forest, far from other humans. He explains how he has learned to manage stress over the years, but is shocked when Mash makes his entrance. Even after living in this house his entire life, Mash explains that he couldn't remember if he was supposed to push or pull to open the door. An apology is enough to calm Regro, but the feeling is short-lived as Mash attempts to fix the door and only ends up making it worse. Afterwards, Regro makes sure that Mash finished his morning training, and Mash questions why all his workouts are physical. Regro thinks about how Mash is special as he is not able to use magic at all, but doesn't tell him and simply states that it's a story for another time. Regro must leave for now, and Mash states that he will learn how to fix the door, but Regro would rather he learn how to open and close it before anything. As he leaves, Regro reminds Mash, like he has several times in the past, that he must never venture into the city while he is gone. Mash agrees as Regro points out how honorable his son is, but we see that soon after, Mash can't ignore the call of an empty stomach as he heads to the city. In the city, Mash notices all the ways people use magic, but points out how they're all just doing stuff that can be done with their hands. He arrives at his destination where he orders 7 limited cream puffs, but finds that he got too excited and accidentally crushed his coins. Mash then fixes them with very little effort, shocking the man with his strength. After this, Mash's hood comes off and people nearby are horrified when they notice something missing on his face. The chef holds himself back from asking about it, leaving Mash completely unaware as to why they are staring at him. Elsewhere, a man named Brad laments living his dull life in such a dull place, but we strangely see that a chained up man begs him for forgiveness. The chained man tries to explain that he only stole a little something, but Brad points out how it just caused him to have more work to do. Brad plans to teach the man to never cause him trouble again, but he is interrupted by information about an unmarked person being in the city. Back in the city, Mash thinks about how sorry he is about breaking his promise to his father, but states how it was worth it since he was able to eat goblin cream puffs. Mash accidentally bumps into a drunk member of the magic police, who complains about getting little pay and no respect. He threatens to take out his rage on Mash, so Mash offers him a cream puff. The policeman becomes more enraged to be pitied, especially considering that the cream puff is half eaten. The man is furious about the cream on his uniform, so Mash tears it off his body and offers to clean it. The policeman furiously points out how it isn't a shirt anymore, but Brad arrives to break up the altercation. Brad realizes that the boy before him is the unmarked person he was told about, and wonders how he could casually be eating cream puffs in this situation. He approaches Mash, but Regro appears from nowhere to take him away. Brad won't let his opportunity for a promotion get away, and casts a spell meant to find them. Back home, Regro scolds Mash for going to the city alone, but another apology convinces Regro that Mash really regrets his actions. He accepts his son's apology, but explains that as punishment, Mash will have to do his morning workout again. Mash leaves his father with some cream puffs as Regro opens the door for him. Regro thinks about how Mash must now be at the age where he wants to get out, as they have lived his entire life in hiding deep in the forest for Mash's sake. The magic police have caught wind of his son now though, so Regro decides that he must act quickly. It's too late though, as Brad's magic has found his house, and Brad arrives in search of the boy who is unmarked. Elsewhere in the forest, Mash does his intense workout, demonstrating his incredible strength, and states that he only needs 5 minutes when he is really focused. He arrives home baffled once again about how to open the door, as he overhears a man question if Regro knew about something and if it's the reason he was hiding Mash. Brad points out that magic has flourished since the dawn of time, because mankind has aggressively rid themselves of inferior blood unable to use magic. He states that it's a necessary sacrifice, and those that can't use magic do not deserve the privilege to live. Regro refuses to say anything about the boy, so Brad explains that sheltering the unmarked is a serious offense. Regro takes a beating for not saying anything, and thinks about how he grew up as a failure. His magic had always been very weak, and he was talked down to for it constantly. Things had gotten so bad that he was about to take his own life, but he stopped when he found Mash as a baby. Regro instantly realized that this baby was abandoned for being unmarked and decided to care for him since they were the same. It was the first time in Regro's life that he felt like someone needed him. He thinks about how even if they're not related by blood, even if the entire world denied Mash's existence, he will always be a father to the boy. Brad asks one last time for the boy's location, but Regro screams for Mash to run instead. Brad has his men search for the boy as Regro cries for his son to run, and Brad continues to beat on him. Regro thinks about how Mash is his one and only and persists in his attempt to get his son to run. Brad prepares to make the old man pay for not cooperating, but Mash breaks through the door and makes his presence felt with a powerful punch. Mash tears the cop's second shirt of the day and makes quick work of him. He explains to Regro that he didn't run because they are family, and Regro is all he's got. Mash apologizes for not running like his father instructed, but decides that he might as well take these guys down while he is there. Brad mocks him for thinking he can defeat them without using magic, and the shirtless cop thinks about how Brad used to be on the Bureau of Magic's security force. Brad is confident that he can end the fight in 3 seconds, and the cop is ecstatic to see him use the spell that once drove away a dragon. It's an incredibly powerful spell, but everyone is shocked to see that Mash is completely unharmed. Brad realizes that Mash simply slapped the attack away, and wonders how that could even be possible. Brad begins his next attack, and the cop tries to stop him as he fears that Brad might destroy the entire area with that type of energy output. Brad unleashes this even more powerful attack, but Mash once again just slaps it away. Brad continues trying to harm the boy, but Mash just keeps coming up with more and more interesting ways of nullifying the attacks. Brad wonders if Mash can actually use magic as Mash picks up his father's wand, but states that it doesn't matter since ordinary magic can never break his defense. He is utterly stunned though, as Mash doesn't use magic at all, but instead throws the wand to completely destroy Brad's defense. Mash explains that he will kill Brad if he ever threatens his family again, and Regro wonders how this amount of strength could be possible since the training was only supposed to help Mash with self-defense. Regro is certain that they are doomed though, as even if they get Brad to flee, this will only bring trouble going forward. Brad laughs as he states that he will let Mash and his father go as long as he makes a deal with him. He explains that once a year, one exceptional student is revered as one of God's chosen. Brad instructs Mash to enroll in a magic school and be chosen. It's called Divine Visionary, and it simply means that being selected means God has accepted you. This means society will accept this person as well. Brad explains that he will back Mash the entire way, but he wants the fortune and prestige that comes with it. Regro doesn't want Mash to agree, but Brad explains that if he refuses, he will hunt them down for the rest of their lives. He points out how miserable their lives will be always having to run, and Mash decides to agree to the deal. Regro thinks his son is insane for agreeing to go to a magic school since Mash can't use magic, but Mash is confident that his motivation is stronger than anyone else's. Mash just wants him and his father to live in peace again, so he heads to the magic school soon after. Mash refuses to live in a world that won't allow him to live in peace with his father, and decides that he has no choice but to crush it with his fists instead. He arrives at the very prestigious Easton Academy, where less than 3% of applicants get admitted into the school. Up above, a professor named Claude observes all the students and points out how ambitious they all are. He notices how intensely they prepare their magic for the exam, but is then stunned to see one student lifting weights. Claude is convinced that he is just imagining what he is seeing, just as he notices that Mash is doing the invisible chair while reading a fitness book. As if this wasn't strange enough, Claude notices the two guys doing a very poor job of trying to hide nearby. Regro wonders if the plan will really work, and Brad points out how he made Mash's fake scar indistinguishable from a real one. Claude is confident that a slacker like him won't even get close to passing the exams, and reveals himself to everyone to explain that he will be the one overseeing the exams. Claude revels in how everyone is admiring him so much, but Mash just states how it must have hurt coming out of the fire when Claude introduced himself. Claude thinks about how he's definitely going to flunk this slacker of a student, and instructs everyone to get ready for the first exam. Claude brings forth desks with magic, but becomes annoyed when Mash points out that he could have just taken them to a classroom. The first exam begins, and Mash is shocked as Claude explains that he casts a spell that makes all the letters move around on the page. The exam requires students to remove the spell, so Rugger loses all hope in his son's success as Brad wonders why he ever thought his plan would work. Mash astounds them though when he threatens the words with his strength and the words stop moving for him. Claude is certain that Mash's paper will be a mess, but is amazed when he sees the words have lined up perfectly. From that point on, Mash found ways to pass all the exams, including running on water and pretending to make a boulder float when he was actually using his thumb. Claude can't believe the slacker has passed to this point and decides to end his progress with a maze. It's no ordinary maze as there are several traps throughout, and he only gives students 30 minutes to get out. Mash thinks it should be easy to get out, and a girl named Lemon asks to tag along as it would be more efficient if they worked together. Mash agrees but quickly finds that this girl isn't helping very much as she is in constant need of his help. She constantly asks him to not leave her behind as Mash wonders how this could possibly be more efficient. Lemon stops him from moving forward and apologizes as she states that she has a secret reason for keeping him from reaching the end. She points out how her magic can't be broken with human strength, but is shocked when Mash breaks free. He leaves her behind just as a guardian appears and asks her a riddle. She doesn't have the answers, so she prepares for her punishment as she apologizes in her head for deceiving Mash. However, the guardian is stopped as Mash returns, and he explains that he came back just in case her reason for doing what she did was similar to his. She is grateful as she points out how they are out of time, but Mash reminds her how fast he was able to come back. Outside the maze, Claude is certain that Mash will fail after sending the guardian after him and recruiting Lemon to stop him. Everyone is shocked, however, as they hear loud noises, and Claude can't believe it as the walls are 1 meter thick and impervious to all magic. After Mash bursts through though, everyone wonders if what he did was cheating, but the headmaster of the school watches the curious young man. The other students don't like it as they begin chants for him to go home, and Mash feels terrible as he explains that he would rather be home as well. Lemon screams for them to stop though as Claude demands that she stop talking. She ignores him though and reveals that she was trying to get in Mash's way the entire time. She reveals that Claude agreed to pass her if she did so, and she only wanted to do it because her family is poor and she wanted to help them. Claude is completely unapologetic and wonders what's so wrong about failing students he doesn't think deserve to pass. He insults Lemon for betraying him and states that she must be as stupid as her parents. Claude decides to fail them both and instructs them to challenge him if they disagree. He is confident they won't stand a chance against him, but is shocked when Mash destroys his wand in an instant. Claude is furious, but Headmaster Wahlberg arrives to break up the fight. The headmaster will be taking charge of the exam moving forward, and explains that interviews are next. Mash is called to be interviewed first as he finds that several people are there to watch it. The headmaster's questions are about how Mash went back to save Lemon, even though he didn't have enough time during the exam. Mash points out how he did it since he thought he would regret not doing it. The headmaster is astounded as it doesn't seem like Mash even considered that the guardian would be stronger than him, or even that he wouldn't be able to break the walls. Mash explains that even if he considered those things, saving her still had to be done. The headmaster points out how Mash can only think that way because of his inexperience, but wonders what Mash would do if he faced something that overwhelmingly outpowered him. The headmaster then shocks everyone as he uses an extremely powerful spell. He explains that it is an ancient spell that transfers the soul of the target's most cherished one into a doll. For Mash, that is his father, and the headmaster goes on to say that when the blade pierces the doll, then the person's soul will never return to them. Mash instantly tries to destroy the blade, but the headmaster reminds him that he is immensely more powerful than Mash. He asks Mash again what he would do in such a situation, and Mash shocks everyone when he puts his hand under the blade. Mash points out how he has realized that this is now a test of endurance. The headmaster begins to end the spell as he explains that power can be used to either harm or help, and so he puts emphasis into helping the weak and regulating the strong. He has gained confidence in Mash and apologizes for testing him so harshly. Mash accepts the apology and decides to answer the question about what he would do if he ever had to fight against the headmaster. Mash confidently states that he would simply beat the stuffing out of him using his fists, which shocks everyone, but the headmaster simply welcomes Mash to Easton Magic Academy. Rego's soul returns to him and we see that Mash is in class soon after. The first lesson in class is the lock opening spell, and the professor is shocked as Mash simply opens the lock with his bare hands. A boy named Finn nearby sees how strange Mash is and hopes that he doesn't end up talking to him. To his absolute surprise, Finn finds that Mash has broken the door to his room, and Mash explains that they are roommates. Mash apologizes ahead of time for not knowing much about anything, and Finn begins to think Mash might not be so strange after all. However, Mash begins to introduce Finn to his muscles that he has given names to, and Finn realizes he was right all along. Mash asks about how to become a divine visionary, and Finn explains that one must collect gold coins. Students are evaluated on absolutely everything, and given coins gold, silver, or bronze based on the evaluations. On top of that, students must keep their grades up to avoid expulsion, and Mash is overwhelmed by it all. Finn is friendly to Mash but thinks about keeping his distance, and the two eat cream puffs together. Sometime later, Mash asks Finn to lend him a broom since he accidentally brought a stick thinking it was a broom. In class, students learning to fly on a broom are told to put magic into it as they say the word fly. Mash is determined to restore peace to his and his father's life, but is disheartened when the broom doesn't respond when he says the word fly. A student begins to mock him but is shocked when Mash stomps the floor and says the word fly once it's already in his hand. The student challenges Mash to a race and thinks about how it will be impossible for him to lose since he has been riding brooms his entire life. The professor wonders if Mash can even ride a broom as he begins the race, but is dumbfounded when Mash instantly wins. Everyone is shocked to see that Mash has set the new world record, and Finn seems to be the only one who got a good look at what happened. He thinks about how Mash instantly threw the broom and immediately jumped out towards it so that he could mount it. The defeated student refuses to accept his loss, but a friend of his named Cavil shuts him up. The other students are terrified to see that Mash has become Cavil's new victim, and decide it would be best to stay out of it. Cavil explains that he was really impressed by Mash and requests to be friends, but Mash just points out how strange his name is. Cavil seems to become upset, but the professor interrupts them. Cavil points out how funny he thinks Mash is and invites him to meet there again after school. Cavil shows how horrible he is as he beats up his friend for failing him and states that Mash is his new toy. Elsewhere, Finn explains that everyone fears Cavil because he is the son of a high-ranking member at the Bureau of Magic. A vice principal seems to have close ties to their family, so anyone that stands against him will get expelled. After school, Mash makes his own cream puffs as he thinks about how he must become the strongest student at the school. He can't help but feel like he has forgotten something as we see that Cavil is furious to see that Mash never showed up. The next day, Mash tells Cavil that he missed their meeting since he was making cream puffs, and Cavil puts aside his frustration to explain that he has connections that might help Mash become the divine visionary. Cavil wants Mash to do whatever he wants in exchange, and Mash excitedly agrees. Sometime later, Mash finds that another one of his books has been destroyed by someone, and Finn begins to decline his request for help, but Mash sits next to him anyway. Finn points out how he said no, but Mash just calls him a lifesaver. Finn is surprised when Mash offers him some cream puffs and expresses how glad he is to have such a good person as a friend. Afterwards, Cavil intentionally spills water and has Mash clean it up. Cavil leaves to explain to his group that he has grown tired of having them destroy Mash's books and wants them to burn his clothes instead. Surprisingly, we see that Finn is part of this group, but he has now decided that he can't keep tormenting Mash. Cavil is furious as he punishes Finn, and we see that Mash searches for Finn to return his book. He finds Cavil, who simply explains that he is getting an apology from Finn. Mash is concerned about Finn's wounds, but Finn states that something else is more important and admits to being the one that destroyed his books. He reveals that he was too afraid to disobey Cavil's orders, but apologizes profusely. Cavil tells Mash to just leave the loser Finn behind, as he is finally ready to introduce him to the vice principal. Cavil points out that Mash will never get anywhere hanging around with people that only apologize, but Mash destroys him and explains that he is the one that should be apologizing. The others are shocked as this will certainly get him expelled. Mash isn't sure if that is actually a big deal, but soon realizes that he might have done something bad. Vice Principal Farman arrives to explain that he definitely has done something bad. Farman explains that a meeting will be held to discuss Mash and Finn's role in the incident. He points out that the two of them and Cavil are of different social status, and this means they will receive different treatment. He calls them idiots as he begins to explain the way of the world, but everyone is shocked when Mash knees him in the face. Mash explains that Furman didn't seem too open to reasoning. Furthermore, he already attacked one bully, so he didn't see the harm in attacking another. Furman prepares to expel Mash, but is shocked to be attacked again. He notices dirt everywhere and is stunned when Mash simply reveals that he is burying him. The vice president explains that he can expel Mash whenever he wants, but Mash points out that he can bury the vice president whenever he wants. Mash then continues the burial as Furman begs for him to stop. Sometime afterward, the headmaster asks Mash if he knows why he has been summoned, and he confidently states that it's because he made cream puffs in the dorm kitchen. This of course is incorrect, as the headmaster explains that he has received a notice from the Bureau of Magic to expel him immediately for his attack on Cavil and the vice principal. The Bureau of Magic is the country's highest legal authority, and at the core of their organization are the Divine Visionaries. Cavil is the son of a high-ranking member, so what Mash has done is unforgivable. The headmaster destroys the order though, and explains that there are frighteningly few people like Mash who are willing to sacrifice themselves and act. This is why the headmaster sincerely hopes that someday, someone like Mash will become a Divine Visionary. Mash states that it's exactly what he plans to do, and the headmaster explains how he will have to do it. First, he must become the top student at the academy, which requires gathering enough coins through schoolwork and activities. More explaining just overwhelms Mash, so the headmaster simply states that he needs to earn high marks in his classes and school activities to acquire as many coins as possible. Furthermore, there is one more problem Mash will eventually have to face, but the headmaster has faith that he will overcome it. After all this, Mash ends up with no punishment for defeating Cavil and the vice president, and he in fact became someone that all the other students acknowledged. Afterwards, Mash is invited by a guy named Tom to play a match of a game called Duelo. It is the #1 sport in the magic realm and players compete using brooms. Mash tries to explain that he can't ride a broom, but Tom wants him to stop being so modest since Mash amazed everyone in class the other day. The next day, Mash participates in the match as he reiterates that he can't ride a broom, but his teammates believe in him since he set a world record in class. The match begins as it is explained that the winner will receive silver coins. Players fly around on brooms and fans cheer feverishly, but we see that Mash is stuck on the ground. He states once again that he can't fly, as fans boo him and tell him to go home. Mash would rather be home also, but if he doesn't fly now and goes home, then he won't be able to give his father the peaceful life Mash wants him to have. The story continues as Mash can only watch while his team plays a match of Duelo without him. Mash's friends wonder if there's something wrong with him as they become concerned when the crowd demands that he fly. Tom tries to motivate him to fly and explains that he needs to be more like bamboo since they are so durable. The rules to Duelo are very simple as players simply need to fight for the ball and shoot it through a ring to earn a point. No magic is allowed and broom technique is what's important. Tom finishes up his incredibly inspiring speech about bamboo and heads back to the game, but is instantly wiped out by some jerk. The crowd is horrified to see that the team captain and last year's MVP is down for the count, as Mash's team is now losing by 40 points. Things are looking terrible for them as Tom has broken his arm and tells Mash that winning isn't what matters, what's important is that he give it his all. Mash uses his immense strength to launch himself into the air and is seemingly able to fly, but we see that he is just propelling himself with his legs. The other team thinks he is some kind of joke, but Mash shocks the entire stadium when he launches the ball straight past everyone and through the ring. They're still down by 49 with very little time left, but everyone is stunned again when the ball returns to Mash. His opponents can't believe how strong his fingers are as they realize he's putting a spin on the ball to have it come back to him. He scores several times more as time runs out and Mash's team is announced the winner. They're given silver coins and Tom finds Mash to tell him how proud he is to see him grow into such a great bamboo. Elsewhere, a man listens to news of Mash's success, but remembers how Mash risked the entrance exam for someone he didn't even know. He hates how naive Mash is and determines that he will be next. The next day, Tom wants Mash to practice Duelo, and Lemon wants him to study with her. Mash looks for help from Finn, but he's useless. They're interrupted by Lance, who they marvel at for having 2 markings, and ranking first in the entrance exams. Lance wants to do something fun, but denies Mash when he thinks he means hide and seek. Lance traps Mash's friends inside a bottle and has them meet him in the forest.
Tom is shocked to see that Lance has 2 silver coins, and points out that the lines on someone's mark reveals the amount of magic power one currently has. The majority of people in the world are single-line magic users, and only 1 in 100,000 are multiple liners. Lance wants to have a match and wager their silver coins. He points out how Mash doesn't have a choice but to agree, since he holds his friends hostage. Lance was sure this would work since Mash prioritized someone else over his own goals during the entrance exams. Lance is certain that he can never lose to someone like him, and Mash's friends beg Mash not to agree since Lance is far too dangerous. Lance thinks Mash is too afraid to respond, but Mash just tells him to hurry up and get started. Lance decides to make things better for their duel and uses a spell called Graviole that alters the landscape. Regro and Brad are distant but still feel the effects of the spell. The fight begins as Lance is shocked to see that Mash is attempting to fight without using magic. Using the spell again grounds Mash to the earth, and Lance states that scum like Mash will spend their lives rolling across the ground. Lance explains that attempting to stand is futile, since no human can withstand the spell, but Mash explains that he doesn't need to stand. Mash pulls on roots to split the earth beneath their feet, and Mash questions if Lance likes to spend time on the floor too. They continue to fight, but Lance is shocked to see that Mash's speed has increased, and he can't land his spell. Mash finds Lance's pendant and sees a small girl. He thinks Lance must be a lolicon and wonders if he should call the police, but Lance explains that it's his sister. Lance asks what is most precious in this world, and the first thing Mash thinks of are cream puffs. He guesses wrong several times and tries to answer cream puffs again, but Lance says the answer is his sister. Lance then explains that he will drop the bottle with his friends inside off a cliff, and use magic to increase the speed of its fall. He predicts Mash will go after it, and explains that it's when he will attack Mash. Lance acknowledges how horrible he is being, but thinks of his sister as he states that he would do anything for her. His memory shows his sister healing him as he was in a fight one day. She heard that he fought to protect someone, and she loves how clumsy and kind he is. Sometime later, he found out that she contracted an incurable disease that would completely remove her mark and strip her of her magic. Their parents explain that they will have to hand her over to the government, so Lance denounces his own parents. He is furious with the Bureau of Magic for creating such a rotten system, and vows to become a divine visionary to save his sister. Lance then drops the bottle and asks Mash what he will do, but he is shocked. Mash is completely unfazed and completely confident. He plans to use hamstring magic, which isn't a thing, and calls his move the Big Bang Dash. Mash explains that the choice of losing and the choice of not rescuing don't exist for him, and he takes off running. He has completely disappeared but returns in the blink of an eye. Lance can't understand what just happened as he thinks Mash used body enhancement magic, but realizes he is losing composure and reminds himself of his sister. Mash would rather not continue as Lance doesn't seem like a bad guy. The bottle he threw was fake, so Mash quickly gets the real one. Lance doesn't understand why he wants to stop since Mash can take his coins, but Mash just states that he's too clumsy sometimes to be rational. Lance thinks about how his sister told him he was clumsy and agrees to stop. Lance is a man of his word though and gives Mash a coin as Mash wonders who would have won if they really fought. His friends go crazy over being rescued and Lemon even asks to marry him, but Mash thinks to himself how he should have waited longer to open the bottle. Sometime later we learn that there are 3 dorms in the school that are all rivals, and they correspond with the students' characteristics. There's Alder that stands for courage and conviction, Lang that stands for ability and ambition, and Orca which stands for wisdom and willingness. The Alder dorm is where Mash and Finn reside. Mash learns that 5 silver coins will make 1 gold coin, but he's terrible at math and determines that he might be a meathead. Mash points out what a peaceful day it is with nothing to do, as Finn agrees, but he remembers they have a very important potion assignment due. Mash tries to calm his friend down with a cream puff, but Finn wants him to be more worried, so Mash panics with him. Lance arrives to scold them for not having their assignment done, as they will give a bad reputation to their dorm. Mash shows him his own pendant, and Finn is surprised to see that he couldn't take it and threw himself back. Lance shows them a strange screaming plant that needs to be silenced in order for it to become a universal ingredient in potions. Mash tries to use the Quiento spell, but his plant just screams even louder. With some help from Lance, Finn is able to silence his plant, but turns to find that Mash isn't doing so well. His is out of control, so Mash just slaps it into unconsciousness and calmly claims that he did it. Finn is then shocked to see how complicated making the potion is, but Mash is super confident he can easily do anything as long as it doesn't require magic. Mash seemingly follows the instructions but shocks Finn when he has clearly made a cream puff. Lance then slowly gives him step-by-step instructions but is startled to see another cream puff, even though he watched the entire way. Lance takes his time to explain that he will never lose to Mash again, as he must become a divine visionary at all costs. He accepted his defeat though and vows to never let anyone take Mash's coins. Mash doesn't need to be worried though, and the two continue the assignment. Elsewhere, a red-headed boy is told to watch where he's going, but he doesn't take it well at all, and tells them that the side characters can't tell him what to do. Nearby, a man speaks to his subordinates. He states that no one in Alder is fit to rule the school, and it will be someone from Lang that does. He then instructs them to seize all of the other students' coins. The next day, students find out that they will be having class in the forest, and the redhead named Dot arrives exclaiming that he is the main character, and the world revolves around him. Dot thinks Mash, the mushroom head, looks like a side character, and Mash thinks Dot looks like a weirdo. Lemon arrives to ask if she could tag along with Mash, and Dot just spits on him out of nowhere. Dot loses his mind as he explains that he can't stand guys that get attention from girls. He blames guys like Mash for being the reason no girl has fallen in love with him, and vows to join the Magic Bureau to rid the world of handsome men, but the group just ignores him. Just then, their instructor arrives and explains that both Alder and Lang will be participating in the exercise. They will have to kill scorpions, and each of them will be worth 1 bronze coin. A select few scorpions are far more dangerous, and those will have a square on their head. These are worth a silver coin, but the instructor points out that the average mage won't stand a chance against them. Mash and Lance plan to do their best, but another student arrives to attack him. He explains that they were just messing around, but Mash is clearly upset. Lance must stop Mash from going after him, as he explains that that student is a year older than them, and infamous for misconduct. He has injured several teachers and students, but they haven't expelled him because of his exceptional talent. Lance warns that many of the Lang students are like that, but Lance is shocked when he realizes that Mash just made that face because he was worried about his cream puff being crushed. Lance wants them to work together, but Mash just zoned out, and just now realizes he's all alone. Dot is talking trash about Mash, but is shocked to see him, and Mash snaps him out of it. Dot is ready to fight, but they hear a girl in trouble nearby, and Dot instantly uses an Explom spell to save her. The girl is quite grateful, and Dot must remind himself to stay calm when talking to her, but he can't do it. Their knees touch, and Dot once again repeatedly reminds himself to stay calm, so she doesn't find out that he is unpopular with the ladies. It seems to be working, but he loses control, and the girl thinks to herself about how her magic can make anyone that is even slightly attracted to her fall in love. Mash is next to be put under her spell, so she thanks him for saving her, but is shocked when it doesn't work, and Mash just says that he didn't do anything. She tries to use more magic, but again, Mash isn't affected at all. She figures just being able to control one is good enough, and explains to them that a second-year student named Silva is trying to take advantage of magic only she can use. She doesn't want to be involved in anything bad, but he is forcing her, and she doesn't know what to do. Dot vows to beat Silva up, but he just so happens to show up. Silva is determined to give Dot a taste of reality, but Dot instantly unleashes his machine gun Explom attack. Another attack finishes the job, and elsewhere we see that Lance wonders if Mash is okay. He fears that the second year was targeting him, and hopes that they haven't found each other again. Dot is then surprised to see that Silva managed to protect himself, and uses a counterattack, but it knocks Mash's cream puff away. Silva does some major trash talking, but doesn't realize what he has just done. Dot determines that their gap in strength is too much, and realizes that Mash won't be any help. Dot desperately tries to think of a way to save the girl, but Silva has an offer for him. He states that if they can take 5 attacks from him, then he will let the girl go. The girl points out how ridiculous that is since he might die, but Dot accepts anyway. Silva points out that Mash will have to be hit as well, but Dot exclaims that he has nothing to do with it. Silva reminds him that they have no choice, so Dot states that he will take Mash's hits for him. Mash can't believe that the guy he calls Spikes would do that for him, but Dot states that it's his mess and takes full responsibility. Silva does the first attack, and Dot instantly realizes he's in trouble as he is in excruciating pain. Silva is certain Dot won't be able to withstand all 10 attacks, but continues hitting him with his iron fist. The others watch as he gets to 9, and Silva is surprised to see Dot still able to stand. Dot thinks about how scared the girl was to be harassed by Silva, and he prepares for the final attack. Silva plans to make it a more powerful one and is pleased when he finally knocks Dot down. Surprisingly though, Dot manages to stand and exclaims that Silva must now leave. He collapses, but Silva mocks him as he is not done. Dot realizes that things are about to get bad and instructs Mash to take the girl and run. The girl laughs as she explains that even though Dot was under her spell, she didn't expect him to be so desperate and go through all that pain. They mock him for thinking he is the main character. Silva has a good laugh to see him be insulted by the girl he sacrificed everything for, but his laughter ends when he gets a mouthful of cream puff. Mash points out that it's his turn to take the 10-hit challenge and tells Silva to come at him while calling him a scumbag. Elsewhere, Lance is concerned about Mash, but the others are confident he will be okay since he has already bested some of the other mages. Lance points out that there are different types of mages though. White mages focus on support magic while red mages excel at combat. Mash has been fighting white mages up to this point, but he believes Silva is a red mage and a double-liner at that. Silva then explains how much he hates people like them. Guys that are weak and pretend to be strong agitate him, and he loves seeing their faces get twisted when they realize they have been tricked. He attempts to finish Dot off, but Mash stops him. This infuriates Silva, who begins to attack him as he demands that Mash try to kill him. Mash takes a few hits but stops the attacks, and prepares to use his so-called triceps magic. The move is the ballistic knuckle, and he uses it to get closer to Silva. Silva tries to explain that he is on a different level than Mash, but Mash lands a powerful punch. Silva exclaims that he was able to earn 2 gold coins as a first year, and his magic is top tier among the second years. He tries to go for another attack, but Mash has already taken control and lands another punch. Silva begins to realize that it's impossible for him to win, as he can't stand and can't even tolerate another hit. Mash then shockingly takes a seat and explains that Silva has taken 2 punches. He wants Silva to show how tough he is, as he explains that he needs to take 8 more hits. Silva determines that he must think of a plan since 1 more hit will definitely kill him, and he lucks out when a scorpion arrives. This scorpion has a star in its head, which means it's worth more than 1 silver coin. Silva is elated since he can now escape while it fights Mash, but he's in absolute disbelief when Mash just knocks it away. The surprises just keep coming for Silva as Mash explains that he wants to stop because he kinda feels bad for him. Mash turns his attention to the girl, and she comes up with the brilliant idea to pretend that Silva forced her to do it. Mash puts his arm around her waist as he explains that it's alright, and she thinks about how men are so easy to trick. Unfortunately for her, Mash just suplexes her and points out that he treats everyone equally. Afterwards, Mash is praised by all his friends as Dot watches from afar. Lemon is concerned about Dot's injuries but gets freaked out when Dot loses control. Dot then apologizes to Mash for getting him caught up in the fight and thanks him. Mash points out how strange that was to hear, and Dot must explain how hard it was for him to say. Lance reveals that Mash was being targeted by Lang, as they are attacking Alder in search of coins. Lang's students value birthright above all else, and they'll do anything to keep nobodies from the other dorms out of the Bureau of Magic. It's very clear to him now that they are at war with Lang's elite, the Magia Lupus. Mash then notices that the 5 silver coins he has finally collected have turned into a gold coin, but it's far too bright. Mash just now realizes that there are separate dorms, and remembers how they were divided into them. His memory shows that students were instructed to touch some dinosaur bones, and it would read their thoughts and ideas to select the dorm best suited for them. Several students would go up to hear all their unique characteristics as their dorms are chosen. The dinosaur thinks about how it has been doing this for centuries, and not once has it misjudged as he can read people's thoughts. Mash is the next student, and the dinosaur can't believe what it sees as Mash is only thinking about cream puffs. He is certain that there must be more going on in his head, but no, there isn't, it's just cream puffs. The dinosaur has never been stumped for an answer before and begins to rattle off a bunch of facts about cream puffs. It uses some strange logic when he sends Mash to Alder because cream puff lovers just belong there. Back to the present, Lance explains that Magia Lupus are a group of 7 distinguished students. They are grabbing up coins to sway who the Divine Visionary will be. Mash has a gold coin now, so he warns that Mash should stay away from Lang and always stick with dorm mates. Mash agrees, but we find that it didn't matter since he soon finds himself lost. Mash wanders the halls looking for his next class and believes he has found it. Unfortunately, he also encounters his greatest enemy, the door, as he can never remember if he's supposed to push or pull. Elsewhere, the Lang leader scolds Silva for failing to get any coins. He wants to create a world free of impurities, but Silva couldn't even serve as a sacrificial pawn for their objective. He gives Silva his sympathy as he turns him into a puppet and has it stand amongst the others. He He vows to become the divine visionary as he speaks to the baby puppet and calls it mother. Just then, Mash barges in. He apologizes for not being able to figure out how to open the door, and asks if the guy knows that he is talking to a doll. Story continues as Mash has defeated his greatest rival, the door. He speaks with the leader of the most dangerous group in the Lang dorm, and points out how he is speaking to a doll. The leader thanks him for pointing this out, and questions if Mash is the first year that has already earned a gold coin. He would like to know why Mash desires to become a divine visionary, and Mash simply states that he just wants to live a peaceful life with his family. The leader explains that Mash is misguided. Divine visionaries are the ones who shape the world, and he states that Mash doesn't have the resolve necessary to do the job properly. As for him, this leader intends to return the world to its rightful form. He explains that the only reason humanity has flourished is because it has tirelessly pillaged and devoured their weak. Things are different now as humanity shelters the weak, fights for equality, and encourages compassion. Society wants to shut their eyes and avert reality, but humans are beasts by nature. The weak are taken advantage of, and the superior beings are the ones who prosper. Mash states that he completely understands what he's saying, but clearly doesn't as he concludes that the leader wants to live peacefully too. The group wonders if Mash was even listening, and the leader decides to take Mash's words as hostility. Mash apologizes as that was not his intention, so the leader offers to let him go if he just gives up his precious gold coin. But Mash would like him to consider another option, not doing that. The leader points out that Mash isn't in the position to refuse, and sends out a puppet to attack. Defeating it frees Silva, but Mash has no clue who he is, and tells the leader that wasn't much of a challenge. Mash is confronted by a stronger puppet, but this one has clearly been pumping iron more often than the other, and might even be on the sauce. The leader now has Mash's coin, so Mash apologizes for insulting him, but was too distracted and notices that he almost just crushed someone to death. The group is then shocked to see that Mash is just giving up on his coin, but Mash explains that what he is really doing is prioritizing. To Mash, it doesn't matter either way as he is certain that he won't be losing. Everyone is stunned by his overwhelming confidence. The leader wonders if Mash is just a fool or something more, but can't help but feel that something isn't right. Just then, he notices that his puppet's button is missing, and checks his hand to find that Mash never gave him his gold coin. Everyone is stunned, and one of the girls can't believe what she just witnessed. She explains that the second Mash released the coin from his hand, he also removed the button. He launched the button at an intense speed, and it knocked the coin into the air. Mash then used the immense power of his lungs to suck the coin into his mouth. This is unbelievable to everyone, but the leader is extremely intrigued by Mash. Mash, seemingly unaware of what just happened, wonders what the poor guy was doing on the floor, and just determines that he must get him to the nurse's office quickly. Sometime later, Silva wakes up and is shocked to be human again, as he can't remember anything after becoming a doll. Mash works on sculpting his exterior obliques nearby, and Silva realizes that Mash must have been the one to rescue him. Silva can't understand why, and Mash begins to give a very deep explanation, but bites its tongue and just gives up. Mash leaves, but we see that some of his words did make it through to Silva, as he thinks about how he said that when one of them are in trouble, they all are. At Mash's dorm, Lance points out how something about Dot looks a bit different. Finn wonders why they are even in their room, but they ignore him, and Dot explains that he changed his hair since Lemon seems to like guys with bangs. Dot then analyzes Lance. He determines that his facial structure is in the 70th percentile. He is also tall. This guy is living life on easy mode, and Dot's dissatisfaction level reaches an absurd 500%. Dot's hate for good-looking guys is unrivaled, but Lance explains that he hates rude jerks. They do a bit more trash talking, but Finn sees a fight coming, and calmly asks for them to take it outside. Mash arrives just in time to stop them from breaking things during a fight, but they can't help but notice how contradictory that is since he just broke the door. Dot then surprises everyone when he reveals that he has brought a gift, as that is what one does when coming to someone's house. Finn can't help but think how different the gesture is from his personality, and Dot explains that the tea has his favorite aroma. Mash admires how it's just another peaceful day, but Lance points out that they need to come up with a strategy for acquiring coins. Mash just continues enjoying his cream puff while Dot thinks about getting a girlfriend, and Finn notices how everyone is on different pages. Lemon arrives but notices that she is outnumbered by several men. She calls them savages, but Finn explains that they aren't even doing anything. She takes him to a magic scale that displays how many gold coins each dorm has. Lang dorm has the most coins, while Alder only has Mash's 1 coin. Lang has been taking coins from the other dorms since the beginning of the school year, and the Alder upperclassmen that are capable of stopping them are all away for off-campus internships. If things keep going like this, Lang will be the ones to produce this year's Divine Visionary. Orca students are pretty much just researchers, so it's up to Alder to stop Lang. The situation is incredibly serious, but Doc can only think about how nice it was for Lemon to break things down for them, and how in love he is. The guys are ready to go, and Mash states that he's prepared to flex his muscles in the name of peace. Unfortunately, we see that Mash is in a room full of owls, and learn that he has been reprimanded for his actions. Mash was eager to get started on their mission, but he must now clean the owls' huts for an entire week. Lance arrives and explains that he is there to use Mash as bait to lure the Lang students that are after his gold coin. Mash completely understands and is glad to hear that Lance was worried about him, but that wasn't it at all. Outside, we see 2 students walking through the forest, and one states that once time passes, it never comes back. The other student is annoyed since he is just stating the obvious while trying to make it sound profound. They stop though and prepare to take another gold coin as they have found Mash. Mash is just trying to clean the huts peacefully, but Lance points out how disturbing it is to see how much the owls hate him. They hear a spell being cast that sends Mash into a pit of water, and a Shurika spell that sends out a shuriken. The 2 Lang students reveal that they are both part of the Magia Lupus group, and are there for Mash's coin. One of them is the 7th Fang named Answer, and the other is the 6th Fang named Olor. Per the school rules, they challenge them for their gold coin by waging one of their own, but Mash begs for help in the background as he has never swam before. Olor transforms into a shark to begin the fight, and leaves the other 2 behind. Answer takes a moment to profoundly state that in a fight there's always one winner, but also one loser. This annoys Lance as what he said clearly wasn't profound, but Answer is pausing to make his words sound more impactful. Their fight begins as Lance instantly realizes that Answer's magic simply controls his weapon, and he can easily defeat him with his gravity magic. Lance hesitates to attack though, as he doesn't want to harm the innocent owls, but regathers himself. He decides that it's the owls' own fault if they get hurt, but he stops again when he imagines his sister scolding him. Answer continues his attack without hesitation, but Lance refuses to dodge in order to protect the birds. Answer realizes that Lance is part of the prestigious Crown family that is famous for their gravitation magic. He knew that their eldest son ran away, but what he didn't know was that Lance would be so weak. Answer states that nothing feels better than overwhelming the weak. Having someone below you allows you to acknowledge your own superiority. He explains to Lance that this is the only purpose for weaklings like him. Lance uses his Graviole spell, but it only causes a shovel to fall. Answer unleashes a powerful attack, but feels like something is off, and realizes that the shovel caused a bag of food to open. The owls have flocked to it and cleared the area, allowing Lance to use Graviole. Answer is shocked and realizes now that Lance just wasn't attacking for the sake of the owls. He refuses to be mocked and uses his absolute most powerful attack, but it's easily stopped by Lance. Answer can't understand how there is such a huge gap in their strength, even though they are both double-liners. Lance points out that while Answer fights to feel superior, he just fights for the sake of his dear little sister. Guys like Answer who only fight for themselves have no chance against his determination to save his little sister. Under them, Olor tells Mash to prepare to be hunted, but is shocked when he feels something pass by him at tremendous speed. He thinks this was just his imagination, as humans can't swim faster than 10 kilometers per hour, but quickly finds that Mash is no ordinary human. Olor points out how Mash couldn't swim earlier, but Mash tries to speak underwater to explain that he just didn't realize he knew how. He can hardly even see Mash at such high speeds, as he now knows what it feels like to be hunted. He decides to get serious though, and evolves into his most unstoppable form. Mash unleashes a powerful barrage of punches, and the entire fight is all over, as they have won the gold coin. Mash points out that the 6th and 7th weren't that strong, and thinks beating the rest might be too easy. However, another one of their members arrives, upset at what he heard, and shocks the 2 when he moves without them being able to follow. Lance immediately uses Graviole, but is shocked to see that he can't use magic. Mash immediately senses the threat as well, but the man tells him to calm down. Mash interrupts him to attack, but is also shocked to see that the man has disappeared. They can't believe their eyes and wonder if it was teleportation. The man explains that he simply came for his allies, but also to get a glimpse of their strength. They have nothing to worry about for now, but they will meet again soon. Lance points out that beating them might not be so easy after all, but definitely worth it. As the man leaves, his mask begins to crack and realizes that Mash surprisingly managed to touch him. He acknowledges Mash's incredible strength and speed and determines that he is the same type as him. Thanks for watching. Mash is an ongoing anime and the next episode airs on Friday, so I'll have the recap done by then.